I appreciate it. Appreciate your time and your efforts. And, so the first thing I want to talk about is the tuning fork. Basically, in channeling, we're all just tuning ourselves to a higher, or a different, not higher, a different energy. And we're just, essentially what's happening is I'm moving out of the way and increasing my frequency, and then another entity or another being is lowering so they can match and vibrate this similar frequency, right? So that's essentially happening, and as we always are tuning and channeling constantly, so it's not like a phenomenon that just happens. It's just how skilled you are and like aware you are of it. So it works much like a telephone. Like you can't see somebody on the other side of the phone, but you trust that they're there, and you have experienced it enough where you know the voice that you're talking with to register, like your logical mind knows, oh, that's my mom, that's my brother, whatever. So after you've established that connection with whatever being or entity you want, you could connect with Mother Mary or like Magdalene, whatever, Jesus, anybody really, anybody that you can think of, you're really just like dialing them up. So trust that it's them, and if you don't trust, then you're not going to have like a really good connection with them. So basically, channeling, what I'm doing now is, what I'm channeling is the Pleiadian, and of course they are the Subaru symbol on the car. That's a Pleiadian star system.
Yes.
So that's something I resonate with deeply. The message that I've always read about, and that's how I first got in touch with them, was reading their books, their messages, all that. So, and basically what I'm doing now is the initial phase of contact that's been going on for thousands of years before like an official like physical contact can occur. Basically, channeling is in a form bridging worlds and a bridging frequencies and bridging philosophy, and it's just trading essentially. So this is a very essential part of our expansion into the cosmos and into interstellar space travel and whatnot. So we'll always encounter new and exciting things. And I just want to go over a density diagram. So everybody's familiar a little bit with the densities right here? Okay, so this is just a helpful, practical way to understand a little bit better. And so, Shastra, I know that you haven't, maybe, are you familiar with Law of One material at all? Or
a little bit.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So essentially, if we just categorize the whole essence of creation into 7 different layers, or 7 different domains, and all infinite space and time exists within these 7 domains, and it's like basically sub-frequency or sub-levels within sub-levels within levels of sub-levels. So it's just mechanisms of micro. It's like fractal universe, right? So it's just, if you guys ever looked at that, that's essentially what it is. Everything is happening at once, and you have an opportunity to visit a frequency domain wherever you want in space-time by just imagining, and just by thinking you're doing that. So anyway, so I want to talk on just the concept of what I'm connecting with and what we're doing here, essentially. And this is my belief system. So if you guys don't resonate and don't feel like you have to agree with me, but so 6th density self. This is like, we're in 3rd density, shifting into 4th density, right? And we're making this big transition right now. So 6th density self is this shell and this container for all your experiences that you've ever had or ever will have. And your 6th density self sends you back sends you back a portion of itself in the form of a third density being. And there's actually many third density beings. I don't know how many, but there's many. So here's a third density. I'll work my way back up. So these are different third density beings existing within the physical body of like human form. So the sixth density self sends these portions of itself. By the way, this sixth, I can't explain exactly what that amounts to scientifically, what sixth density is, but it's a collection of entities. It could be breakaway civilization. It could be like whatever civilization you eventually get to. I'm not sure what it is, but it's this collection of intelligence and entities in the sixth density, and you have many perspectives. You have many lives and abilities to perceive the reality. So fifth density here is still physical. It's still physical, right? It's still based in physical. And fifth density is the next offshoot of sixth density, right? And there's many many beings in fifth density also that are going throughout evolution, but they are not as physical as third density. So this is the first time I've ever illustrated this, by the way. So I'm just going off this. But fifth density is that shapeshifter entities, right? Like they don't actually shapeshift. They are able to project into your consciousness a image so rapidly and so consistently and so clearly that you see them as something else, but they're actually still their form, but you perceive them because they have a higher awareness, they have a higher potential. So whenever you see visions of entities or demons or angels, like it very much could be an extraterrestrial being that's actually fourth density, right? But or not fourth density, it'd be more fifth density. But they're still physical, but they have, or fourth density also has fourth density beings or interstellar beings that, cosmic beings that have technological advancement to actually like artificially project themselves, but fifth density are much more keen and adept at psychic powers and stuff, so they can actually do that with consciousness rather than fourth density is like artificial technology or is projecting. So they're actually like physically like using light particles to like change the appearance of like, that you see a plane in the sky rather than a craft, just an example. But they're using technology to alter the particles rather than fifth density. They're actually like, they're much more in tune with the psychic understanding of consciousness. So they're the ones, they're really powerful. However, so sixth density sends portions of itself into all these different various dimensions and densities, I should say. And it's all this big cluster of things. So we come here in third density to experience, because the sixth density portion of ourself wants to go to seventh density, right? It's the top. It's the facing the becoming the creator again, becoming where the mystery, the infinite mystery that we don't know where we came from. So when we face the seventh density self, they need to polarize to a higher degree. I'm using all these technical terms, but polarization is basically the same spectrum, but you're polarizing towards service to self, which is more negative, it's more gravity, it's more like sucking, like, it's very heavy, right? Service to self, STS. Service to others, it's very positive, it's loving, it's like radiant, right? It's like giving, it's abundance. And as you go up in density and thus awareness, and thus consciousness, and your ability to really be able to think and not think whenever you want, you polarize more. So in third density, we're in this middle gap here, and much of us are quickly transitioning out of this middle gap, which is the sinkhole of indifference. They call him Law of One. Sinkhole of indifference. My tripod's shaking. Sinkhole of indifference. So that is the point where stuff happens to you randomly. You're living randomly. So the more that you polarize towards service to self and service to others. By the way, the one infinite creator, the seventh density, and the sixth density doesn't see really much distinguishment because this is still within the realm of duality. So that's still like sixth density to first density. That's occurring here is just all duality. To different phases and levels of duality, but it's all a illusion that things are positive and negative. I'm not going to get into that too much. But so the sinkhole of indifference is where things are handled randomly, and the more deliberate you become, the more you choose to become service to self, service to others. And of course, you can be service to others and service to self without even knowing any of this. So you can just go off your own feeling, your own instinct, your own impulse, and it will, your higher self, your sixth density self, if you have a very good connection with emotional guidance system. And by the way, it's not biased toward good. It could also be like, you're resonating with the emotion of anger, for instance, and that's giving you like some energy. So that you're deliberately choosing that more often. So fifth density, sixth, fourth density. So these different portions that we have past life, right? Regressions. People go through all this past life stuff, and that's actually different portions of your sixth density self that is projecting itself into here, into the third density, time, space, in different lives, so that each life can polarize. So that, because, say for instance, this scale, right? To get to seventh density, you got to be 100%. You got to be 100% positive or negative, right? And just for example, we're here in the sinkhole of indifference. This is like, let's say, it's 50%. It's a bad example. So 50% is positive, right? And then to get like really, to get out of the sinkhole indifference, you have to be 50% positive. I know the diagram doesn't consider that correctly, but in order to get out of it, in fourth density, you have to be 50% service to others, or they talk about this in the Law of One, or you have to be 95% service to self to get out of the sinkhole indifference. That's where you're really being deliberate about being of service to yourself, like garnering all these resources and all this information for yourself. So the sixth density portion of you, which exists right now and is giving you that is the intelligence that is like letting you breathe without having to think about breathing. That's the sixth density self. Or even seventh density. That's the mystery, right? We don't understand we don't have to think about breathing. So that kind of correlates with higher density intelligence. So the third density portions are trying to polarize more towards service to self or service to others, right? So that the sixth density self can become 100% either service to self or service to others. And this sixth density self is not one entity like we experience right now. It's all portions of your third density self, like all your past present and future lives. Fourth density also has that same experience, but it's experienced on a much more deliberate way. So there's different experiences in density, and in fourth density is what we're talking about, like, Star Wars civilization, Star Trek. We're talking like, traveling through space and time. And then fifth density is also that, but much less physically oriented. So they're fifth density, the gurus, the rishis, the very religious people are like not in their body a lot of the time, right? So that's kind of like what fifth density is experiencing. Like they're, for example, like imagine a race of beings that are inside of a planet, and they have like they have these chambers where they go and meditate, kind of, and they do that like, say there's 24 hours in the day, but they do that like 18 hours of the day, and they're actually waking for just 6, right? Yeah. So that's just an example, right? And it's not, of course, this is all just very black and white for your logical understanding, but hopefully that suffices there for that. So the sixth density entity is essentially, okay, this is where I'm going with it. So in fourth, right now, we're experiencing like attracting like, right? So we're getting together in groups that are not necessarily family oriented. We're getting together with these people that are very similar to us, that we want to vibrate on that level. And eventually what this is going to get to, hopefully in our lifetime, but essentially what we're doing is the start of breakaway civilizations. And as there's different groups on Earth, and as we advance in technology, the technology is already here, but it's not disseminated for us. So as it's disseminated and made available for many others, there's going to be more people living the planet to start their own civilization, because they don't like the way the current Earth situation is being. So this is the start of that. So we'll see, people getting together in groups, kind of going off into cults, right? And they get so persecuted for doing that. But that's the beginning of fourth density, and that's why it's been very difficult for cults to remain successful, because that frequency wasn't understood, and it wasn't like loved unconditionally, and this intelligence, this wisdom, this knowledge wasn't really understood by them. So they didn't really know what they had. So it just kind of got collapsed and dissolved. Because the fourth density energy now is much more potent than it was back in, say, the 80s, even as early as the 80s. But because the Pleiadians talk about the 1987 harmonic convergence, about how like there was the largest mass meditation ever on the planet happened. It was like 150,000, or maybe even like 500,000 people. But it was like this big time where consciousness was at its apex. And there's a line of planets also, so going in astrology. So that's why you're here, essentially, is to polarize. And as we go into fourth density, there's going to be a lot less gray area in the sinkhole of indifference, and you will choose much more deliberately and much more rapidly and efficiently your reality. So, is there any questions about that? Yes?
It's like maybe a slight tangent, but I'm wondering, where does astro travel fit in? Like when someone astro travels, can they go to all the different densities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no limit on physicality, really. Thinking you can live in this third density domain right now, but you can travel to fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And usually, the higher you go, the more accurate somebody is, really. That's why gurus are just so wise. Like they like, their resounding truth is so like deeply penetrating is because they travel more frequently to 6, 7, 5 higher densities.
It seems like for me, I'm in a place where I've never really been big on like affirmations and positive thought, but is this what I'm going to describe as this like the fourth density energy is like I have to be a lot more careful. If I'm positive, I can manifest a lot more quickly than I used to be able to. Is that because we're moving into fourth?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah. And you'll actually see something I want to touch on is catalyst. Basically, catalyst is suffering. And catalyst here in third density is much more potent. And there's much more opportunity for catalysts to polarize you in third density than in fourth because there's less suffering in fourth. There's less suffering in fifth. Less suffering in sixth. And that's why the sixth density self wants you so bad to like trust and do all the like, they just want you want to be here because you want to polarize and make that jump to being the creator in seventh, right? So that's why you're here, to polarize, essentially. And catalyst is you can polarize in the duality or the spectrum much more efficiently here than the fourth.
What do you mean by polarize?
Polarize is going towards service to self or service to others.
Oh. And are you saying that Law of One saying that service to self is bad, or are you saying if it's no polarity, that means there is no good and bad? So sometimes we know we need to be in service to self for a while. So,
right.
Right.
Yeah. In third density, it's very relevant for that. But as we go into fourth, which we're experiencing now, it's not so relevant because like there's technology and like there's knowledge, right? That is helping us become not so reliant on suffering or reliant on like learning the harsh lessons of like having to go through. You can literally learn through just imagining now more than you know. You can just go through that perspective and that experience in your mind and just learn everything you need to know before you actually do it.
Cool.
Yeah. So this requires, of course, a lot of awareness, but yeah, we're just becoming more aware. That's what it all boils down to. But so yeah, catalyst is what I was going to answer your question with. Is we're experiencing a great catalyst now, and catalyst is the best polarizer for you to become more efficient with your overall entirety of who you are. So when people talk about like they're talking to a collection of entities, which I do, they're talking in the sixth density intelligence, right? Yeah. Like Abraham, right? From
Abraham Hicks.
Abraham Hicks, yeah. That's definitely sixth density.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Because it's a collection of beings, right? Okay. Because they experience, they're just one mind. They're a social memory complex. It's just a shell that they left for all their other densities, self, to like reference from.
I haven't heard that term in 30 years.
What?
Social memory complex.
Oh, really?
I read a book 30 years ago about that.
Yeah, that's the Law of One.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't think I read Law of One, but
okay.
Anyway, awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so catalyst, does everybody have any questions about catalyst? Okay. Catalyst is definitely helpful. So, polarization. Yeah, I think I went through it all. So, great. If you guys have nothing to add or nothing else, then I'll just get started here on channeling. Can you maybe take the lights?
Of course.
And lock the door. Thank you. Of course. All right. So I'm going to just kind of go through guided meditation and kind of just relax. Make yourself comfortable. Take a deep inhale and let out with a sigh. take another deep breath and release with a sigh. As you're becoming more aware of your breath, realize and be aware of the air on your lips, on your nostrils, entering, and follow this air, this prana, into and through the body, not before, not after it, with it, be with it, all the way. And go with it to the very end of the inhale. And right when it's turning into exhale, pause. Pause there. Pause there. And see if you can experience no thought. For just a moment. And as each inhale or exhale turns into the next, experience a pause and a transcendence from time and space in that moment. As if you are not alive anymore. As if you were not in a body anymore. And do not think anymore. Do it as much as you feel comfortable. And while you're doing this, experience and experiment with rolling your eyes to the top of your head to look at the third eye. Roll your eyes back. You may experience like contraction in your eye sockets, like a resistance or pain maybe. You might tear a little bit. But when you fix your eyes on the third eye, it's like a magnet. It will hold them there without you having to use much effort. See if you can connect with your breath there, too. If you can experience no thought there. I invite you to just remain relaxed while I attune myself. You attune yourself. Just remain with your breath, following it, allowing it, resting deeply in the breath. Hello, and good day to you. This is the Pleiadians, and we are here with the Pleiadian perspective of wisdom and light. We are speaking to you from truth, from our own place in time and space, and we allow for this communion and this bridging to occur. We commend you for your desire to connect and to experience another dimension, for it is not perceivable within your own scientific mind that you can experience other dimensions. And that is the problem, the main concern for the current model of science and understanding of reality. For there is limitations there within, and you are unable to understand the nature of your being without understanding that there are multiplicitous ways to experience and to shift your perspective in each moment. Each moment you are trusting for a new identity to inhabit your experience, and this identity is only as rigid as you stay within that identity, within that perspective. And if you if you become more rubber and fluid with your ability to move and to stretch and to allow for this new, fresh information that is entering at all moments and at all times, then you will become genius. You will become absolute genius. You will become the Buddha. You will become the master that you all look up to so much. You will become that which you are made to and that which you are already. Because everything is happening now. It is your transportation device, that of the imagination, that is allowing of it, that is permitting you to be now, to be this body, to be this technology. And as all technology, it wears and it